Well, we are so fucking back. Crypto is going absolutely crazy right now. And in this video, I'm going to be telling you why I bought crypto for the very first time ever since shorting the top all the way back in October. And this is a trade that I've very publicly documented for a long time, in real time, where I described how it had never been more over for crypto, how I was shorting it all to zero because, simply put, there was no catalyst left. And so I made many videos saying that I'd be selling my crypto as fast as I fucking could. And many coins ever since then made all-time lows. And ever since then, I also said that I was all in on AI, and particularly in documenting all of the private market investments I was making, and why I was also buying a lot of these sort of AI stocks like SanDisk, Micron, AMD, all of which went up multiple hundreds of percents ever since then. And over the past couple months, right, notably, we haven't made any new lows. So the last short I took on crypto was at 72K. And this was because Saylor was selling his Bitcoin. And this is a narrative that I also made a video about as well. And it described why I was shorting particularly then, because Saylor is basically running the biggest Ponzi in history. And so because of all the mechanics happening with Stretch and all the dividends that he owed to everybody as well, this was basically a recipe for disaster because he would have to sell many more millions of dollars in Bitcoin. And so he did, right? Of course, Bitcoin went all the way down to 60K, but it actually held those lows. So even when he sold more Bitcoin somewhere around here, Bitcoin had the opportunity to fall, but it didn't. And so there are a lot of people probably getting very complacent in shorts, thinking that we might get another leg down. But for me, whenever I see, the exact opposite, where if there's a lot of bearish catalysts, but price is refusing to go lower, then I start to get, an upside bias. Similar to all the way back in crypto, when it was at the top right here in October, many new catalysts happening with the digital asset treasuries, everything like that. But of course, price could not push higher, and we also ran out of catalysts. And so, the opposite applies here, where we ran out of negative catalysts, right? We had the Iran war, we had Saylor selling, we had a lot of overhang, all the quantum risk, multiple different confluences, all bearish, and yet we refused to make new lows below the 60K level. And so ever since the sweep of 58K, I was thinking that, at the very least, my bias is towards more chop, but all we need is just something to push the narrative. And so that's exactly what we got right, a couple days ago, where actually yesterday, the main news was that the US Treasury announced that they're doing buybacks of long-dated government bonds. And so they were buying back the 10-year and 30-year bonds. And so I'll explain this concept very simply. Essentially, a government bond is like an IOU from the government, where if you pay them, like let's say $100 for a bond, the government will pay you back a fixed yield for a certain period of time. So like in the case of the 10-year bond, they'll give you, for example, like 5%, every single year for 10 years. And then they'll also pay you back the principal. So they'll give you back the $100 at the end as well. And so the lower the price of the bond, the higher the yield. But if the price of the bond continues, so if there's a lot of people that want to buy the bond, then the yield will actually decrease. But the problem is that recently, almost nobody has been buying bonds. And so this causes the yield to go up, and the government will therefore owe more money. There's more of a financial burden for the government. And so the government is already in trillions of dollars in debt. And alongside with a lot of heavy inflation, that's kind of the reason why no one's really buying these bonds right now. Because let's say inflation's already at maybe like several percent, then and it keeps increasing, right, with the political conflicts happening around the world, then there's it's less attractive to buy bonds because you're at a fixed rate. And so if inflation keeps increasing, you're not going to buy that, right? You're gonna try to buy assets, like real assets. And so the government decided, hey, like this is a little bit too much. And so they actually stepped in to buy back the bonds. So the yields actually went down from the bonds. And when the yields on the bonds go down, then they become less appealing for people who want to buy bonds. And therefore people start to buy more assets. And so bonds, because of direct competition for risk-on assets like equities, gold, and crypto, when yield rates decrease for bonds, other assets become more attractive. And so this is the thing that pumped the TradFi markets yesterday temporarily. But equities didn't move too much in the news. So as you guys know, I've been longing, SanDisk, Micron, all those things since months ago. But they actually did not really move too much on this news. And the reason why is, I think it's pretty simple, right? I think the bond buybacks were actually pretty small. They were only maybe a few $1 billion. But the bond market itself is trillions of dollars. And equities, the problem with equities is that they are a much more liquid market, and they actually hinge more on inflation. So the problem is that the inflation problem is not going to be fixed permanently with this sort of band-aid solution. And so for equities owners, really they need more drastic intervention to like, be able to curb inflation in the future, for this to actually, positively impact them in a sustained manner. And so a lot of the AI names also are like debt finance, which means that these hyperscalers are really sensitive to inflation. And so the inflation problem hasn't really been truly patched. It's just like a short-term solution. But for crypto, the thing was, like I said, all the negative tailwinds went away. So all of the tailwinds with Sailor selling, with Quantum, with the Iran war, all of them were sort of absorbed at these lows down here. And so as soon as we see a range breakout, this is the time to make a play, right? And so all it took was just a little push, and then a bunch of shorts that were complacent got squeezed right that morning when this government buyback was announced. So all it took was some small macro events. Crypto as it is, people are much more retarded, honestly, in this industry. A lot of like dumbasses trying to short at the lows after we had so much absorption over the past couple months. But also it's much more liquid, meaning that a small sort of catalyst can actually send the price much more significantly than what you'd expect. And so we made that move all the way up to around 70K as soon as that news happened on Wednesday. And ever since then, right, we've been sort of like grinding our way up because we made this range breakout at 67K, right? And so like I said in this sort of post I made in my server, that really all that took was a little push because this market is a little more liquid, and then all the shorts got squeezed and then prices gapped up. And so Bitcoin making this high above the breakout level, and especially because it's a multi-month breakout level, it's very significant, right? I've been talking about my trading system for so long, and really, like I mentioned before, it's about market structure and it's about high time frame support and resistance. That's it. So as you guys know, we've been in a downtrend, right? Making lower highs, lower lows this entire time. So on a high time frame, we're still in a downtrend, right? We're still making lower highs and lower lows this entire way down. But, right, we have a breakout right here. And so I do use high time frame support and resistance levels. And so this has been a level for over 2 months. And anytime we have a multi-month range breakout with strength upon a catalyst, and if we get continuation after that catalyst with bullish market structure with higher highs, higher lows the entire way up, then that's a really good sign of continuation. And so anytime you get that, that's just a clear sign to this left curve. You just have to enter that because it's very asymmetric, right? Anytime you see a multi-month breakout, the longer something has been coiling for, the longer something has been ranging for, the more expansive the breakout is, right? And so anytime you have something like this, where you have clear invalidations, for example, at the lows right here, at New York open lows, then we can actually set the invalidation somewhere down here, and the trade is very asymmetric for much higher payouts than the potential loss. And so anytime we have that trade, I simply just enter it and ask questions later. And so that's what we got in Bitcoin. That's exactly why I entered positions yesterday, actually. And I basically mentioned how everything still looked really good above this sort of key level right here. And so anytime you see this, right, anytime you're lacking exposure in these things, I think you just have to enter with the invalidations at some local low. And so yesterday it actually made sense to enter not only on the breakout right here, but let's say you missed this exact breakout and you wanted to enter somewhere down here, which is what I did, then the local lows somewhere right here are applicable. So you can enter with the local lows somewhere down here, and you can enter anywhere around here, because I did expect this wick at around 70K, the sort of mini range breakout to happen. And that's exactly what did happen overnight. And we got that move at around 4 in the morning Eastern time. And we've slowly just been creeping up the entire day. Longs are up fucking massively. It's been going crazy. And there's a bunch of other cryptos that I want to discuss as well that all look really, really good ever since then. So Ethereum actually looks great as well. And this is something that has actually secretly been looking really good over the past couple months. Not necessarily in terms of high time frame structure, but in terms of, looking at this sort of chart right here, we have this low at 1500, and this actually has held very well over the past couple months. And we also see right here that the highs right here have actually been breached. So the main thing with Ethereum is that it made this high on June 15th, and this is, if you look at the Bitcoin chart, mirrored right here. And so this was the range high that I was discussing for Bitcoin on June 15th. But Ethereum has been well above that June 15th level for over a month now. So on that basis, Ethereum has actually been strongly outperforming Bitcoin from a structural point of view. And so Bitcoin is just now getting above literally yesterday, this level. And this level right here of the highs around May, Ethereum is already creeping towards. It's already like right here at around 2,400. If reclaimed, I think that we could actually see a pretty decently sized move right here. On Bitcoin, we actually still have some work to do. We have to go all the way to 81K. But as I mentioned before, I really just want to see reclaim of this level at the very least to be somewhat convinced that we've made a breakout out of this high time frame downtrend. If we actually decide that, hey, Bitcoin has been downtrending for a long time, right? We've been making lower highs, lower lows this entire time. If we actually break out of it, where we establish a market structure break above this lower high, that's a very, very good sign. So this is the sort of ultimate sort of TP for my longs. I did enter some around 68, 69K, and then TP'd some earlier today upon these sort of impulses. As I mentioned, I always take profits along the way as each trend forms. So I did take some profit, but at the end of the day, right, I'm looking for asymmetric moves. We got kind of one, but I think the real asymmetric move is all the way back to these highs, maybe somewhere here. Maybe we make some lower high and come back down. You know, that could always happen because the assumption with these trends is that the downtrend will continue until we make some sort of market structure break. So that happened, for example, like with the uptrend, right? The exact opposite happened where we were uptrending for Bitcoin for a couple of years, and then for the very first time, we made a lower low right here. And that was part of my argument back in October as to why we would actually top out. And so the opposite is happening here where we've been downtrending for several months now, almost a year, and this could be the first time where we make some sort of higher high. We just have to see if we get to 81K and reclaim that with strength. And so Ethereum, kind of same thing. I want to see that reclaim of 2,400-ish. Solana has been pretty shitty, honestly. But this sort of high around maybe $96-ish, if reclaimed, I think that could be a similar breakout to Bitcoin if that actually happens. Hyperliquid is something that I've been eyeing for a while. This is also something that I launched earlier today. And so really it's been up because of a certain reason. This was because Trump actually talked about it earlier a couple days ago, or actually this was yesterday. And this was kind of crazy. He actually talked about it live on stream. I'll show you guys right here.
I understand that Mike is also working to bring Hyperliquid into the United States in a fully compliant and legal fashion.
Also, do you guys see this guy's face right here? Like, he was definitely insider trading this shit. Like, he probably paid his kid's fucking college fund just through Trump's, insider information. This is kind of crazy. So, anyway, off that announcement, Hyperliquid went absolutely crazy. I mean, this pumped massively right then. And so, we've been sort of tailing this all-time high. So, we've been sort of running into this area of resistance right here. And if reclaimed this all-time high, I think we could make a significant leg. This has been resistance for a couple months now. So very, very significant highs right here. So definitely keeping an eye on that. Pump is something else that's been going actually crazy recently. It's been very, very clean market structure all the way up here. And for a while, I kind of didn't want to enter this. For one, because this is very much a cabal coin, like a lot of influencers showing this. But two, we're still in a high time frame downtrend. And so only today did we start to actually break out of this downtrend by making a higher high right here. And so I really want to see this higher high hold at 34 right here. This is the main level that I want to see hold. And so that's really it for crypto. I mean, there's maybe a couple other names like Lits that could be of significance. Maybe even make some sort of high right here. Also looking at stuff like, Zcash, for example, maybe if it makes a high above 665. But otherwise, in crypto, right, I mean, for any chart, you just want to see if it's making some sort of market structure break. Someone mentioned to me, for example, like Link, right, if I just look at any particular charts, right, if it makes this market structure break above the May highs right here, could be of interest. So kind of just want to use that as a general heuristic of some sort of relevant high back in the day and seeing if it's making a break above that high, maybe worth taking a trade then. But of course, right, with Bitcoin, the main thing was that we reclaimed not only this level right here, not only this breakout level right here, but also the Sailor level at 72K. This was when he first started to sell. And so off this 72K reclaim, we really need to see some strength. If we've actually fully cleared the Sailor tailwinds, right, the negative tailwinds, then this 72K level should hold. Otherwise, it's pretty bearish, and I'd be looking to potentially take profit on the rest of my longs. And this definitely needs to hold the 67K for sure. If this doesn't hold, then it's going back probably to maybe new lows, honestly. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's still a very good move, very viable trade. More of a lower time frame move. I wouldn't say this is like a generational long. I think, as I covered in my most recent videos, I think the most recent and probably the last generational trade to take in crypto was that short from all the way back in the highs. I don't know if we get anything crazy again, but this is at least a mechanical trade that I have to remain objective about. Despite my biases about crypto, I have to remain objective and take this breakout trade as always. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this sort of crypto recap. I know a lot of my audience still really cares about crypto, so I just wanted to cover this real quick for all of you guys that are still trading this industry. As always, I pretty much remain asset agnostic, directionally agnostic. I trade whatever assets are moving in whatever direction with my trading system that I've covered in many such videos prior. I try to be as transparent as possible with every single one of you guys and provide as much value as possible. And so for those of you who've been following me for more of my sort of private market and TradFi content, as I've covered sort of before, was mostly in those AI stocks, sold most of them back in June and re-entered them on the market structure breaks. Actually, this is another example of a market structure break where we see this sort of downtrend right here, and then we finally see a higher high right here, for example, on SanDisk. So I ended up taking that trade, but otherwise, I mean, it's kind of just been shopping ever since then. And in terms of private market news, as you guys know, on my Discord server, I share top private market deal flow. So I shared an opportunity for Atoms and Discovery Loop. These are two top private market opportunities. And in private markets, you really just want to get exposure to leading industries. And some of the leading industries include companies like, you know, robotics companies in industrial and humanoid robotics, AI lab, AI, bottleneck companies, space companies, you know, defense companies. Those are the sort of 5 or 6 main categories that you want exposure to. And Atoms and Discovery Loop are some of the leading companies in the hottest rounds, actually, the scarcest, most sought after allocations in those sort of companies. Atoms being TK's company. TK is the founder of Uber, and so he's trying to build the robotics company that is doing the industrials for everything, for transportation, mining, and food delivery. And Discovery Loop is actually a company started by the former chief engineer at Google. He was basically the first engineer, the highest level engineer. Him and Sanjay were the absolute top dogs for the past 30 years. They basically built the internet as we know and like it, and they made a new AI company. So these are the opportunities here that I've been syndicating in my server, making them available and transparent for everyone who wants access to it, who's an accredited investor. So if you guys want access to opportunities like this, I still post about these sort of private market opportunities in my server as well. So looking forward to seeing you guys in there, and have a good one.